So we're asked to graph this polynomial, and it's going to be a nice parabola here. They're also going to ask you to include the x and y intercepts. So a quick peek back at the problem itself. It says graph this by plotting key points, including the x and y intercepts. Move the key points on the graph to set your answer. Okay, well, let's start here. Let's start with the easy part. I'm going to make a little t-table off here to the right to kind of keep track of things. One of the things I want to find out is kind of an easy point to start with. That's the y-intercept of the graph. The y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis. Let's think about what we know along the y-axis. What's the value of x along the y-axis? 0. So let's go back here and set in x equals 0. So set x equals 0. That's going to be y equals 0 squared minus 6 times 0 plus 8. I think we can get that one without too much thought, right? What does y equal? 8. Thank you. So 0, 8. That's your y-intercept. How do you suppose I'm going to find the x-intercepts? Well, I said x equals 0 to get the y-intercept. What am I going to do to get the x-intercepts? Set y equals 0. So set y equals 0. So back up here in this equation, if I set y equals 0, I get 0 equals x squared minus 6x plus 8. Do I need to pull out the quadratic formula for that one? No. That's like squirrel hunting with a bazooka. All right? It's overkill. So what can I do to solve this then? Factor it. It factors as x minus 2 times x minus 4. So my two solutions that I can read off here are 2 and 4. So that gives me another couple points here. 2 for x or 4 for x. That goes along with what value for y? 0. And let's make that actually look like an 8. So 0 and 0. Now this is all that the problem is asking you for, but let me kind of complete our picture just a little bit more by finding the vertex. So the way that the book, or the way that Newton asks you to find the vertex is with this formula. X equals negative b over 2 times a. Okay, well, let's see if we can't plug in a few values here. What are a and b respectively? Thank you. B is negative 6 and a is 1. So I end up with 6 over 2 or 3. So 3 is the x-coordinate of the vertex. Fadi, how am I going to find the y-coordinate of the vertex? So if x is 3, how am I going to find the y-coordinate? Put in the x. Thank you. All right, good. So let's put in the x, value of x, into this equation, and let's see what we get. So y equals 3 squared minus 6 times 3 plus 8. So 9 minus 18 plus 7, or plus 8, gives me negative 1. So 3 for x goes with negative 1. That's my vertex. These two are my x-intercepts, and that's my y-intercept. So I pretty much have all I need to get a good looking picture of this graph. We're okay with our calculations? Let me go put in our answer in using Newton. All right, so this is my y-intercept. So let me set that first, and as I do that, it's going to adjust things a little bit. So let me slide that up here, and that's 9. And now I got to set my x-intercepts, and this could be a little bit funky. We'll see how it goes. My x-intercepts get set to 2 and 4 respectively. So there's one at 1. Now it's at 2. And that one's at 4. So I think we're looking pretty good. We've got this point here. If I click on it, it gives me 0, 9, 2 and 0, and 4 and 0. So all of them are looking pretty good. There's one other point that I can use to kind of check this. Let's see how accurate the graph is drawn here on Knewton. What's the last point that I can use to kind of check this? The vertex. Does the vertex look like it's at 3, -1? Yeah, that looks pretty reasonable. So whatever software algorithm they're using to generate these points, it's doing a good job because that's pretty much exactly where we expected. 3, -1. Okay, looking good on that one, Dwayne? 0, 0, 8, yeah. Let me look back here. Did I have it in the wrong spot? Did I have 0, 9? Yeah, you're right. There we go. Are things still looking good? Vertex there, there. Yeah, that looks even better now, I guess. Thank you. No, I would be really annoyed if I got it wrong. So, ready?
Yes.
Bang. Your hard work is paying off. That's really special. Okay, let's keep going. Graph this one by plotting the X and Y intercepts. Move the points to plot. Move the points on the graph to plot the parabola. Okay, same kind of thing. It's actually going to work out a little bit different. That's okay. So y equals -x squared minus 6x minus 8. So if you're looking for it, it's right there. We're going to play the same game here that we did with the previous one. We're going to find the X and Y intercepts and also the vertex. Let's start with the easy part. Let's find the Y-intercept. Kari, how do we find the Y-intercept? Thank you, sir. Set x equal to 0. Can you read that off for me? What do we get when we set x equals 0? -8. Good. So that's the easy part. So set x equals 0. -0 squared minus 6 times 0 minus 8 gives me -8. So that's my y-intercept. How about the x-intercepts? What do I have to do to find the x-intercepts? Thank you, ladies. Set y equal to 0 to get the x-intercepts. So that's going to be 0 equals -x squared minus 6x minus 8. What would you do here? This is your problem. You're faced with it on exam. How would you solve it? Yeah, I think it might be convenient to factor out a -1. Thanks, Lisa. So x squared plus 6x plus 8. And what's nice is that the stuff that we have left behind will factor, right? I'll leave the negative out front. Negative's not really going to change or harm anything. Takara, how does that factor? It has to be plus and plus. Two numbers that multiply to 8 and add to 6, 2 and 4. Does this 0 out in front, or excuse me, this negative out in front change anything for us? Your solutions are where this times this equals 0. So this could be 0 when x is -4. This could be 0 when x is -2. But -1 can't equal 0. So really you're only getting the two solutions here. So this factor out front doesn't really matter as far as our solution is concerned. So -2 and -4, 0 and 0. Last but not least, let's figure out the vertex here. So it's going to be x is negative b over 2 times a. And I sense that Jaden's anxious to participate and tell me where that vertex is going to be. Of course, first we got to put in some numbers. What numbers would I put in here for a and b? You got to go back here to the original. Well, let's see. It fits the pattern of this. So a would be the coefficient of x squared, b is the coefficient of x, and c is your constant term. So the negative of b is what? Negative 6. So the negative of negative 6 over 2 times negative 1. So 6 over negative 2 is negative 3. So that's my x, the x coordinate of my vertex. So negative 3. Yeah, now for y, here's a good idea for y. I mean, you don't have to do it this way, but a lot of people might make a mistake with all these negatives involved. They might make a mistake inputting negative 3 here. You can do it, but let me show you perhaps a little bit more of a fail-safe way to do this. Let's change our equation on our graphing calculator. So you hit the y equals key. I'll clear all that out. We'll do the negative. Make sure you use this for that one. Negative of x squared minus 6x minus 8. And of course, earlier we set up our table so that it's set to ask and auto, so that now when we go to our table, we can just plug in a value. Like, I don't know, negative 3. So negative 3 for x gives you 1 for y. Let's see if that all makes sense. Let's input these into Newton. So I'll start by adjusting the y coordinate on my, to try to put in the Y-intercept, that is. So 0, negative 8. So that's going to be down here. And then I've got a couple X-intercepts. So I've got one at negative 2 and one at negative 4. So there's one at negative 4. Let's drag this one over here. And now it's at negative 2. So let's just double check these. Here and here. There, looking good. There's one last point that I can check. 3 and 1. There you go, 3 and 1. So, nice. This matches completely all the things we said were going to be there. Are you guys comfortable with graphing these kinds of things on Newton? This is what I would expect on an exam. I'm not going to give you anything really crazy and off the wall. So let's submit and see that we're right. Cool. Hard work paying off again. Pretty awesome. Are you comfortable with section 5.4? All right. 10.4, sorry. 10.4. All right. Do we want to do one more, finding a minimum or maximum? Or are we good with those two? We're good? All right. All right, let me just stop this and then move on to section 10.5.